This PPT has been prepared by referring many sources from the internet, textbooks, and prescribed notes. I do not claim any originality in preparing this PPT. Welcome to Module 2 and Unit 3 of Economics and Management. In this module, we will discuss about organizing and staffing. These are the learning objectives. By the end of this chapter, students should be able to understand the purpose, importance, and types of organization, differentiate between centralization and decentralization, differentiate between authority and responsibility, importance of span of control, understand MBO, that is management by objectives and management by exception, understand the importance of staffing, understand the selection and recruitment process. First, let us learn what is organization. It is a rational coordination of the activities of a number of people for the achievement of some common explicit goals. It is normally done through division of labor and function and through a hierarchy of responsibility and authority. They involve a significant amount of conscious planning, coordination, and deliberate structuring in order to achieve the prescribed goals. This is a simple way of putting the organization into a picture wherein different people are thinking so many things in a structured way so that the common explicit goals are achieved. Let us discuss the characteristics of an organization. Each and every organization should have a common objective. Common objective in the sense it has a purpose and a goal already indicated during the planning. Each and everyone in the organization, whether they belong to upper management or middle management or lower management, they should have a common objective. It is equal or as same as Henry Fayol's subordination of individual interest to general interest. That is the meaning of this. A well defined authority and responsibility. Each and every person should have a proper well defined authority and responsibility irrespective of the position in the organization. They should know what is that they need to do and how they need to execute that. Division of work is related to classification of activities into jobs. Normally this is done as per the specialization and as per the expertise of the workers. Coordination, establishment of relationship between these jobs is adopted with the help of coordination. Now let us discuss about the purpose why an organization exists. Purpose indicates the very reason why organization exists. An organization is the place where technological innovations are properly utilized. An effective administration happens in an organization. An effective control occurs in an organization. Growth and diversification of the individual as well as the entire organization occurs when it is a properly organized company. Fifth one is the coordination. When different people are working together for a common goal, the organization will exercise a good coordination among them. The sixth purpose is to have a proper training and development of personnel. This is another reason why organization exists. So when you are having an organization, when you are running a company, there has to be a well established training and development of personnel. For your information, at Toyota near Bangalore, they have an exclusive training and development plant, and that training and development plant has everything uh, as same as that of the main plant. I can call it as the prototype of the main plant. And each and everyone who joins the company, they have to undergo a rigorous training of 6 months in that prototype plant before they come and join the main plant. This is the extent to which Japanese give importance for training and development of personnel. The seventh purpose is initiative. It takes the initiative. It doesn't stay behind. It doesn't lay behind. It takes the initiative to help the people, help the organization to grow. And it is a dynamic, and it's not static, and it is ever changing, ever improving. Try to cope up with the present situation. That's why it is called as a dynamic. And the ninth purpose is better human relationships. It starts producing better human relations. People involved in the organization exercise a better human relations, and we have seen in even during Hawthorne studies that social groups occur, and attitudes matter a lot for improvement of the productivity. The tenth one is the job satisfaction. And when you have a proper effective administration, effective control, coordination, better human relations, obviously the another important purpose why organization occurs or exists is to provide job satisfaction to the workers working in the organization. If workers are not satisfied, if we rob them of pride in their work, if we rob them satisfaction in their work, then that organization will fail. Purpose is the main point, and it occurs from priorities, philosophies, and purpose. So it is the pinpointed reason why an organization exists. Examples of some of the purpose statements: Facebook has the main purpose of bring the world closer together. That is why Facebook exists. TED Talks, you would have heard that. It is to spread ideas. IKEA has the purpose of make everyday life better. CVS Health, another health organization, help people on their path to better health. So this is the very reason why that company exists. That is the meaning of purpose. Now let us discuss about principles of organization. First one is the objectives. Each and every organization should have a very clear cut objective, and that will help the workers within the organization and the customers to understand the reason of existence of that particular organization. Specialization, it should have a scope for specialization. Span of control. Span of control indicates the amount to which a senior or a superior can control the subordinates. Let us discuss about this point in next slides in a detailed way. Exception. There have to be some exceptions in an organization. Exception in the sense, some special occasions have to be treated in an exceptional way. Some sudden emergency will erupt and you have to act accordingly. You cannot have a same kind of recipe for every uh, problem. So you need to have some exceptional cases. Scalar principle, it has to follow a scalar principle. Scalar principle in the sense, the ladder of different people having different responsibilities and different authorities. Unity of command, irrespective of the scalar principle, irrespective of the different levels, there have to be one command. So different people giving commands will create a havoc in the organization. It leads to chaos, and nobody can understand what is going to happen. That's why one person should always command and others should follow. That is the meaning of unity of command. Delegation, you should be ready to delegate your work when you feel that you are overburdened, when we feel that this work can be managed by people lower down the order, instead of taking every responsibility, every authority onto you, as a superior, as a top management, we should be able to delegate some of the works to people down the order. That is the meaning of delegation. Responsibility, each and everyone in the organization should have a well defined responsibility, and responsibility comes along with authority. Few people will have higher authority and equivalent amount of responsibility. Few people down the order will have lower authority and equal amount of responsibility. This I have already explained. Efficiency, and the organization should be able to measure the efficiency of the work as well as the worker. So when people are working, you should be able to understand to what extent they are efficient, how to improve the productivity, whether it is labor productivity or it is machine productivity or it is material productivity. An organization should have an arrangement to measure them. Simplicity, an organization should have a structure which is very simple to understand. It should not have a very complex structure with lots of mixturing of different people moving around here and there. No, it should have a proper ladder like structure. Flexibility, again the situations will change, and the organization should be able to either increase the number of levels or to decrease the number of levels, make it more horizontal or make it more vertical, whatever it is, but it should be flexible. Balance, it should strike a balance. It should not be too much oriented towards top management, or it should not be too much oriented towards lower management. If you give everything to lower management, every authority responsibility to lower management, then also the company may suffer. Vice versa, if you assign every authority and responsibility to top management, then also the organization may suffer. So there should be a proper balance of authority and responsibility being distributed to each level of organization. The last one is personal ability. There should be a scope for giving or demonstrating personal ability for each worker. So you should have the arrangement, you should have the scope, you should encourage each and every worker to pose his personal ability, to demonstrate his personal ability, so that his reputation is also better and his perception also changes with respect to the organization. Now we will discuss in detail about the span of management. It is also referred as span of control. This diagram is a simple depiction of controlling different subordinates by a superior. This indicates the number of subordinates who report directly to a manager or a superior. This determines the effective utilization of the managers and also effective performance of their subordinates. If the manager is capable enough to control more than 10 persons, 20 persons, 30 persons, yes, he can control, but some of the managers do not have that ability. That's why what happens, they may not be able to control more and more people. That's why normally what happens, if the span is wider, the manager gets overstrained. It means if he is trying to control more than 20, 30, 40 people, he gets overstrained. Vice versa, if very less people are assigned under him, and then also it is not good. That is what we term as very narrow span of control, and the subordinates feel perturbed for every aspect, for every work the manager pokes his nose, and the subordinates may feel disturbed, perturbed due to over control by the manager. If the span of control or span of management is narrow, then the organization structure becomes tall, which means each manager is controlling too less number of subordinates under them. As a result, the number of levels increase, and people down the ladder find it very difficult to communicate to the people up the ladder, and it has to pass so many levels, and many a times it may not reach the person to whom this communication should have reached. On the other hand, if the span is very wide, then it becomes a very flat organization. Then the scope for vertical communication reduces and the scope for horizontal communication increases. The factors that govern the span of management are ability of the manager. If the manager has the ability to control more than 20, 30, 40, 50 people, fine, he has the ability. Some of the managers have that kind of charisma that they can control even 100 people under them. They don't mind. The entire organization revolves around them. They are like the nucleus, and they can control each and every one, and their just one word will see that the employees just adhere to their work. They do not revolt, or there won't be any confusion. That is the ability of the manager. At the same time, ability of the employees also matters a lot. How ability of the employees matters? If employees expect the manager to come and inform them, tell them for each and every work, whether it is small or big, major or minor, then manager cannot control more people. If employees can make minor decision, if it is a day-to-day work, routine work, fine, let them take the decision. If they can take the decision, then the stress on the manager reduces. That's why both ability of manager as well as the employees govern the span of management. Third one is type of work. If the type of work is easy, day to day, common, same kind of loading the machine, same kind of work, there is no much change in the design, there is no much change in the drawing, then manager also need not have to crack his head too much, poke his nose in everybody's work. He will just give directions in the morning, and till evening he can concentrate on some other strategic decision work. But if the work involves complex design, if it involves discussion at each and every stage, if employees are also new to this work, they are not skilled enough to carry out this work, then it becomes a tough job for the manager. Then the manager cannot control more number of people. Well defined authority and responsibility. If each and every worker knows what they need to do, they have the authority and they know the responsibility, then they will carry on their work very easily. So that's why if authority and responsibility is very well defined, then manager can manage more number of people. That means we can have a wider span of control. Geographic location also matters a lot. Normally each organization will have say some 5 to 6 units. If those 5 to 6 units are within the vicinity of say 10 kilometers, then controlling those 5 units become very easy. If those 5 units are located say within a vicinity of 500 kilometers or 5000 kilometers, how difficult it would be to control those things or exercise our control on these things. That's why geographic location also becomes very important. But due to improved information and control system, now geographic location is not a matter of fact. Irrespective of their location, people can exercise their control, can have a look into the organization, can manage properly with the help of video conferencing tools, advanced meeting tools and all those things. They need not have to fly to the new location. The cost has also come down, and they can manage, or they can monitor every work sitting at a distant place. Level of management, some of the organization will have more levels, some of the organization will have lesser levels. Lesser the levels, span of control will be wide. More the number of levels, span of control will be narrow. Last one is economic consideration, I mean to say. If the organization can afford to hire more number of managers, then obviously you can expect a narrow span of control. If the organization cannot afford to hire more number of managers, then each manager has to manage more number of people, then it becomes wider. So that depends on the economic considerations of the organization as well. Looking into all these things, we can suggest that normally each manager can control up to 20 subordinates. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it's a generalized rule that normally we go with 20 subordinates can be managed by a manager. So this is with respect to span of control. Thank you.